No one was more surprised to hear a mobile desalination plant had been proposed for Vales Point in southern Lake Macquarie than the city's mayor. Greg Piper says he only learnt of Wyong and Gosford Council's plan to build a plant at the Vales Point power station through the media late last week.
Would it be nice to have had some indication that this was going to come back again?
The possibility of a desalination plant at Vales Point had been discussed between Lake Macquarie and Wyong councils 3 years ago, but was dismissed following environmental concerns. While this latest proposal would see the plant's leftover saline solution or brine dumped into water off Nora Head rather than into the lake, the mayor remains sceptical.
Every time we muck around with a natural system, we tend to get it wrong. So I would always advise extreme caution in interfering with a system such as Lake Macquarie.
If approved, the plant would provide the Central Coast with 8 megalitres of water per day. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The Hunters housing market is in crisis. Many tenants can't afford to pay high rent as well as save for a deposit to buy their first home. The Real Estate Institute says more needs to be done to help people out of the rental rut.
We've got to get investors out there buying and hopefully free up the marketplace.
He's supporting a plan put to the federal government by New South Wales Housing Minister Cherie Burton to allow people to use a maximum of $25,000 of their superannuation contribution for a first home deposit.
We're saying let them access the $25,000, they can invest that into their own home, and that's an asset that they can carry on into the future.
The Federal Treasurer today rejected the plan, saying the state government should instead abolish land tax and stamp duty. But Cherie Burton says the state is already doing its bit and is calling on Hunter residents to sign a petition which she will present to Canberra.
We've cut 5 taxes already, including vendor duty, and we already have initiatives such as the stamp duty exemption for first home buyers to get into the market. So the state government is doing a lot.
Christy Carter, NBN News.
Surrounded by his adoring family, Toronto's Paul Tumbers today received his 5th commemorative medal for his service and contribution to Malaysia's independence during the Indonesian confrontation. In 1965, he took part in 2 naval operations aboard HMAS Parramatta and patrolled the Malacca Straits in search of Indonesian insurgents. He claims not to have done anything extraordinary to merit the medal.
No, I'm just a pretty ordinary bloke, but it was hard.
The Pinja Jasa Malaysia is only awarded by the Malaysian government to people who showed distinguished chivalry, gallantry, sacrifice or loyalty during the undeclared war.
It's a great honour, and for something like this to be presented with a medal from another country is pretty special.
While some of his younger family members weren't too sure what he'd done to deserve the honour, they were beaming with pride nonetheless.
We're very proud of our granddad because he fought in the Malayan conflict and he helped with all the soldiers in the Navy.
one even wearing her own honorary medal. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Off contract, everyone knows just what a job Gary Van Egmond has done at Newcastle this season. But with the owner pledging that a new deal is a formality, it'll do him.
He's assured me that everything will be fine, so he's a man of his word and trust him.
You get the feeling the captain is warming to this Friday night's clash in Sydney, but it's the return bout at Newcastle he's really looking forward to.
Come Friday week, I think you'll see the biggest crowd of the season for Newcastle down there once again.
His teammates were back at the office today knowing the tough work still lays ahead. After turning their season around just to make the finals, the Jets are quick to dispel any thoughts they think the job is done.
I think a lot of the boys here have been there, done that before, and they know that, it's just because you make it doesn't make it any better on your resume or anything like that. You know what I mean? You want to win that grand final.
Neither Thompson nor Stu Michalek trained today, but should be right for Friday for a match where the mind games have already begun.
And I look at their squad and I look at a lot of young players who probably don't know how big an occasion it is, and the game may well get the better of them.
Having not fought since June last year, Chad Bennett could have chosen an easier path back to the ring than this Thai fighter. Taller, heavier and with much greater reach than Bennett, Parkboom Jengphanak was also pretty good to boot. Bennett's ring rust was worn off on the Thai's head in the second round, but it came at a cost. Injuring his right hand, there was little else he could do other than throw in the towel or fight on. Bravely doing the latter, the next 4 rounds were torture on both hand and head. Unable to knock away his opponent's punches, Bennett caught more than his fair share. If he thought the pain was ended by the 6th round bell, removing the glove was a whole nother battle. Treated by the ringside doctor, he later confirmed a double break in his right hand. Added to the majority decision in favour of the Thai boxer, it wasn't the return Bennett was after, but already a rematch in Newcastle is on the cards.
Juliet Clark and her family have been dairy farmers for almost 4 decades, and with each new, dry day, optimism, much like the paddocks, slowly fades away. They need more feed, more water, and would much prefer both than the money they'll get through exceptional circumstances funding just announced for the Hunter and Maitland Rural Lands Protection Boards.
It's really something to keep you in the industry, to stop you closing. I think that's how I see it.
EC funding has been open to farmers in the Upper Hunter since before Christmas. Now most of the region, including parts of the Central Coast, can apply.
All these things are means tested and, they've almost got to be living off rabbits to get something out of it.
An interest rate subsidy and income support packages are being offered. In extreme cases, farmers could be eligible for both.
It's a small glimmer of light and a little bit of hope. But that's about all it is.
The idea is to keep farmers like the Clarks going until the drought breaks and ideally before the declaration expires in March 2009. The reality is, though, the money won't make much difference if soaking rain doesn't fall soon, real soon. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
With the generational change to hit within the next few years as baby boomers retire from the workforce, teaching graduates should be one group that have the world at their feet. But getting a job in Newcastle and the Hunter at present isn't quite that simple. In addition to being a popular place to work, the region's teaching workforce is older and the few positions that do become available are keenly sought by an already large pool of graduates still waiting for full-time employment.
Because of the number of people who come here and don't move on. So you do tend to get a bit of a consolidation of older, pre-retiree sorts of numbers.
To avoid a potential teacher shortage, Professor Lovett is advising graduates to still head to rural areas of the state to get experience and also consider specialising in subject areas like maths, science and technology.
Once they've taught for a few years, they've got the training, they've proven they're good communicators, they can handle education packages, they become very, very marketable in other fields.
But the pressure of waiting is taking its toll, with more than a quarter of all graduates leaving the profession within 5 years. Hunter room occupancy rates, guest arrivals and the number of people employed in the accommodation industry are steadily increasing, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics' latest figures. In last year's September quarter alone, 200,000 tourists visited the region, injecting $27 million into our economy.
The Hunter seems to be bucking the trend in terms of domestic tourism, and in fact we're outperforming most of the other regions in New South Wales.
Hunter Tourism says the number of domestic overnight visitors, domestic day trip visitors and international tourists all increased in 2006.
Particularly the international visitors, we know that they're staying a little bit longer in the Hunter. That's good for our economy because they tend to have a bit more money to spend in the first place.
Today, tourism operators discussed how to tackle 2007 to ensure the region remains a top New South Wales attraction. One plan involves launching a $500,000 television campaign next month to lure more Sydney-siders to the region. And what could be a silver lining for Hunter tourism, 6-star luxury cruiser the Silver Cloud sailed into Newcastle for the second time this month, bringing 300 cashed-up international tourists and 200 crew to the area for the day. The visit is estimated to be worth around $250,000 to the economy. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Since taking over in round 8 this season, Gary Van Egmond has rarely pulled a wrong rein as coach. His horses for courses selection policy has reaped rewards, but the rotation play may have hit its peak, given the performance at the weekend.
Well, it might be the right horses.
Vaughan Coveney is one of those who came back into the starting side against Melbourne, ending what was something of a goal drought for the prolific scorer. He hopes it's enough to retain his spot in the 11.
They're the big games and the big crowds, you know, everybody wants to play in them, and ideally you want to be out there and for as long as you can.
The coach certainly not disappointed at the luxury of experienced players he has at his disposal at this time of year. However, the coming Ollie Roos camp will provide plenty of headaches next week. The Jets have 5 players involved in the 2-game series against Chinese Taipei, starting in Adelaide before the return match overseas. and it's unclear if those players will be available for club duty past this Friday night's game.
My understanding is if they get a favourable result against Chinese Taipei, that they may leave a few boys who are involved with the finals at home.
As for the injured Stu Michalek, he'll test his damaged shoulder at Thursday's final training session. For the last few weeks, Craig Bird has been training with the Sydney Swans under his scholarship with the AFL club. It's been the perfect preparation for this week's state under-18 trials at Coffs Harbour, where the league's leading talent scouts are also in competition.
It's a really important event if players are trying to pursue state selection and pursue their AFL careers, so it's important to play well and impress the selectors.
He's already doing that. Bird captained New South Wales last year and was almost picked up in the AFL senior draft earlier this year. He's tipped to go one better next time around. It's aspiring golfers that fought it out state of origin style at Newcastle Golf Club for the past 2 days. The Jack Newton Junior Golf Foundation took on Greg Norman's own development squad from Queensland in a mixed Ryder Cup style format of matches, and it seemed to suit the home state to a T. Matthew Giles actually played with Greg Norman at the recent Australian Open in Sydney, but today was happy to take on the Sharks' junior players.
Obviously there's a good rivalry. They got it over with us. They've got the edge with us on the football last year, so we're going to get them in the golf.
They did just that with Charlestown's Jake Higginbottom among the victorious home side.
This footage shot in the early hours of this morning shows the intensity of the fire which engulfed a strip of shops in Mayfield. A neighbour who recorded the vision woke to find the small businesses in the southern end of Hanbury Street well alight.
It was a pretty big explosion and flames going everywhere, and they went on for a while, but about a minute later 4 fire trucks turned up. They were fantastically quick.
This morning, fire crews continued the mop-up while detectives investigated the ignition point and the extent of the damage. A tanning studio was completely gutted by the blaze, a car upholstery business destroyed, while a computer store was also severely damaged by heat and smoke.
Flames were just pouring out of the building in both directions onto the footpath and started to come out of the roof.
The fire was contained at around 6:30 a.m, business owners now counting their losses. Detectives believe the fire was deliberately lit and say it appears to have been ignited inside the Sun City tanning solarium, which now resembles nothing but a blackened, burnt-out shell. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Ashtonfield is the Hunters' first privately built but publicly operated school, and ahead of classes starting next Tuesday, the Premier today handed over the keys to one of the state's newest public schools. Maurice Yemmer describing the private-public partnership that has delivered Ashtonfield its school as a success.
Great to see, a fantastic job. The facilities, these are state-of-the-art facilities for the kids and for the staff.
And while most parents probably have uniforms, shoes and bags sorted, Hunter GPs have issued a reminder about the need to immunise.
It's a really important time because when they're going to school, they're actually mixing with many more people, and there's an increased chance of them coming in contact with some of these contagious diseases.
Dr Carruthers also encourages parents to think healthy when it comes to food for their children at both breakfast and lunchtime. And a word of advice from principals for pupils and parents: get ready to implement your educational goals for this year.
It's a great time for parents to take advantage of the New Year's resolutions that we all make. All children have a refreshed approach to school at the beginning of the year.
More than water has been going down the drain at both of Maitland's public pools. Over the past 10 years, patronage has steadily dropped, leaving council to subsidise the cost of running the facilities. Last year alone, the pools cost council $500,000, and that cost could increase this year, with both Maitland's and East Maitland Pool in need of repairs.
We're facing competition from indoor heated areas such as Curry and down at Port Stephens.
In a bid to bring people back to the city's pools and following a recent public survey on what the community wants, council is planning to spend up to $18 million building an indoor aquatic leisure centre, one that could be used all year round. Last night it allocated $30,000 into a feasibility study to look at where the facility could be built and if one of the area's existing pools would need to close.
I don't think the feeling that I have from the council is that that will be the case, that we will close a pool. But however, we've got to look at all the alternatives.
The study should be finished mid-year. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Last week it was a wind-affected course. Today Belmont was wet. Not that the British contingent's complaining.
I like the weather, obviously. It's maybe more Scottish weather there today, but I thoroughly enjoy myself.
And today's international teams event is just that, a friendly before tomorrow's opening round of the Lake Macquarie Amateur.
It's the first national selection event of the year, so obviously everyone's here trying to win because it looks good on your achievements list.
Californian Kemp Richardson once set a course record at the championship and of the international field best knows the Belmont course.
Well, I should. I've played it a lot of times. I mean, I've probably been over here 30 times playing the tournament, I'd say. So I really enjoy it and have some very good friends.
Friendships, though, won't matter tomorrow at an event where England is well represented. And boy, does it need a win.
I mean, I've had a lot of stick about the cricket so far, so hopefully he'll not take it too hard on me.
What better than a Newcastle girl being sponsored by a beer company and a golf course, so that's great.
Wonder whether they can smell me or the glider and recognise that the conditions must be good for a fly, because they just so often appear just as I arrive.
The past 2 days have brought rain at last to the Upper Hunter. Since midday yesterday, farmer Bev Adams has recorded 38 millimetres of rain on her property north of Scone.
It means that we've got a brief respite from worry, and that's about all at this point in time. We need follow-up rain.
With clouds again gathering in the region late this afternoon, more rain may indeed be on its way. But despite yesterday's downpour, hundreds of Upper Hunter families remain high and dry. Not only have they run out of pasture for their cattle, they're also out of drinking water. The Department of Primary Industries, along with the Hunter Rural Lands Protection Board, are now offering farmers 2 20-litre bottles of water per week free of charge to help them get by. The water exchange began late last year as a result of Rathmines butcher Steve Smith wanting to provide practical help to drought-hit farmers, a move that even gained support from school children at Nalkabar near Cessnock.
We actually have been quite surprised at how great a need there is out there.
And relief of another kind is now available to farming families south of Aberdeen, with the federal government granting full exceptional circumstances this week.
That means that farmers can now access a couple of years of income support payments and also some interest subsidies.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It seems that a romantic drive through Hunter Valley wine country is not quite as pleasant as many may think. This is what greets domestic and international visitors when they arrive: unsealed and poorly maintained roads, making that cruise through the country a little bumpy. Cessnock City Council was hoping to secure $7 million from the federal government in its latest round of road funding grants, but the council has now learnt that it's missed out.
Yeah, certainly Council's disappointed. We were looking for some assistance to do vineyard roads in particular. We see it as an area of national importance from the tourism industry's point of view, and felt it warranted some federal money as well.
Vigneron Bruce Tyrrell says with the majority of visitors touring the vineyards by car, road maintenance is critically important.
Well, the number one complaint people come here is roads. It's from the locals, it's from the trucking companies, from the bus companies, and the people who drive in cars. Why are your roads so bad? This is such a wonderful area.
Mr Tyrrell says the area is being neglected by the state and federal government, despite wine-related tourism injecting around $1 billion into the economy. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
This was a welcome sight for thousands of motorists today as Five Islands Road finally became a dual carriageway. Up to 32,000 vehicles use the road daily, and for the past 2 years, work to improve the stretch has resulted in traffic snarls at peak times.
2 years of hard work and patience by motorists, but it's paid off, and today we have this fantastic $49 million 4-lane road.
The project was a challenging construction job because of the area's fragile environment.
When crossing the creeks, when the pylons were built, they were very, very careful to make sure there was no disturbance of those heavy metals that had come from the Pasminco smelter.
But the new road hasn't passed the final test just yet. That's just days away.
Well, I think next week, when we see school returning and a lot of businesses reopening at the end of January, is really going to be a test on the new 4 lanes.
While vehicles can now use the road, finishing touches like pedestrian paths will be completed by early March. This was Spears Point Park today, being prepared to host an estimated 30,000 people during tomorrow's Lake Macquarie Australia Day celebration.
We've got amusement rides, we've got market stalls, the food vendors will be operating all day. We're having some movies in the morning. The official ceremony started at 11 and the headline acts start around 6:30.
The headline acts include country singer Becky Cole. On the Newcastle foreshore, this stage will host ethnic entertainment with the Fiesta Festival of Food and Entertainment from around the world. And it wouldn't be Australia Day unless there was some sport.
We've got the junior triathlon on over there. We've got the skateboarding happening over in Wharf Road. We've got the show and shine over there, and the Stockton Swim, of course, over near the brewery.
Both the Newcastle and Lake Macquarie festivities will be capped off with fireworks from 9 p.m.
It's called The Beautiful Game, and here in Newcastle there's an inspiring example of just what football can do. No glamour, crowds or million-dollar salaries, just the simple game, a field and a ball, uniting a community and helping these young refugees integrate. Most of them live and breathe soccer from the time they can walk and kick a ball. The passion for the game is unmatched.
It's something they would have been doing back in the refugee camps and pretty much since childhood. So this is just an extension of their life and very dedicated to soccer.
But compared to their refugee camps of Sudan, Sierra Leone, Liberia and Burundi, this marked grassy pitch is a dream come true. Newcastle's Migrant Resource Centre has organised the training sessions 3 times a week, a sponsorship grant from local RSL clubs paying for equipment and uniforms. And while they enjoy kicking the ball around here at training, their ultimate goal is to join a local Newcastle soccer club, meeting new teammates and forging new friendships. Mohammed Kamara is one of only a few who has done just that, already joining Cooks Hill United.
Through that, in fact, I gained my employment in engineering through friends. You see what soccer brings? It brings also contacts.
Each night, more than 30 players turn up, and with this enthusiasm, commitment and raw natural ability, who knows where football may lead them.
All these guys are very, very talented. They just need boost or support, encouragement, and boom, you will see something going on. Newcastle Jets will call for them, I'm quite sure.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Strapped in and ready to play, Stu Mishalik will take his place in the Jets squad to meet Sydney FC tomorrow night.
From what I've been told, I will be playing, and the physios have told me after a painkiller it'll be fine.
A shoulder injury threatened to rule him out completely, but there's no way he, or any of the players for that matter, want to sit this race out in what is a whole new ball game.
When it comes down to that 90 minutes in semi-finals football, it just comes down to who wants it the most. It doesn't matter what happened during the season.
A season in which Sydney beat Newcastle on both occasions.
We know exactly where we went wrong, how we can improve, and we're quite confident that we will be able to put that into practice.
As for the build-up, Newcastle's stunning turnaround has thrust it into the A-League spotlight. Fans turned out for training. And at the club this afternoon, players took supporters' best wishes south.
It's finals football. I'm expecting everyone to be roughed up, and I'm expecting everyone to stand up as far as the Newcastle Jets is concerned.
The amateurs here have played for club and country, but it's the latter which brings them to Belmont. Sydney's Rowan Blizzard is already in the national team, and selectors won't be giving him the cold shoulder anytime soon.
Got off to a hot start, parred the first hole and then made quick 5 birdies in a row, which is always a good start.
Blizzard slipped on the back nine, yet he remains in the thick of things, finishing day one at 3 under on a heavy track, doing no one any favours.
The drives are pretty much just plugging right where they land, but yeah, the course is in good condition still.
A course Rudy Bezadenhout calls home. He goes into day two at 5 under. Aaron Pike, the amateur who issued a serious challenge to the professionals at last year's Masters, also finished the round subpar. For the international golfers, especially those from the UK, Europe and parts of America, the championship is literally a warm-up before heading home for their respective domestic tournaments.
We play April to September if you're lucky, and then the rest of it's just if it's a nice day you play, you know. And it's over just home just now. It's frost, so it's great to be playing, you know.
And the Scot birdied the 12th. Fellow countryman Craig Watson didn't though. A painful miss, but left another round to make amends before the first cut.
Professor Graham Vimpani has dedicated his life to improving child health and welfare, and it's his commitment to the community that saw him receive an Order of Australia award today. As humble as they come, Professor Vimpani says he's just the front man of a much larger team.
I think increasingly we're recognising that, you know, that the major government agencies, health, education, childcare, welfare, we're all partners in this enterprise of trying to improve children's outcomes.
Another Hunter local, Air Commodore Tim Owen, also had reason to celebrate. Tim has clocked up 30 years of service to the Royal Australian Air Force and puts his award down to simply doing what any employee should.
Well, it's a very, very great honour, to be honest with you, to be recognised by the Australian people and the Australian government for a contribution to the Australian Defence Force and to the community. But in reality, I assume that I've really just been doing the job that I should have been doing.
And for his contribution to our sporting community, Thomas Madden was another Hunter OAM recipient. Looking back fondly on his days as a rugby union player turned long-time referee, he says he still enjoys the game from an administrative role. And it seems the longevity of his career comes down to his love of the game.
To me, it's all about putting something back into something that you love so much yourself.
In all, 17 Hunter residents received special honours today, among them Dr. Adam Frost, for his selfless service during the 2005 Bali bombing. Melissa Lyons, NBN News.
"97 people from 26 countries today pledged their allegiance to Australia during Newcastle's citizenship ceremony. While dozens of serious sculptors spent the morning on their hands and knees for the sand modelling competition, others relaxed with a picnic, and what would Australia Day be without a bit of thong throwing? There was the usual Aussie larrikinism, whether it was in the street or on the green at the Bar Beach Bowling Club, getting well and truly into the spirit of the day. And while there were plenty of alluring paint jobs on display at the Show and Shine car competition, it was this little tyke who stole the show.
At Lake Macquarie, a record number of people became Australian citizens, 107 all up, the formalities beginning with an address from Mayor Greg Piper. And among Lake Macquarie's newest citizens, the Richmond family from Alberta, Canada, who knew just what to do now they're dinky-die Aussies.
We're going for an Australian Barbie at Mum's.
Yeah, lots of friends coming over, and it's a very exciting day for us.
Thousands of people turned up for the activities, with the Australian flag featuring on shirts, chests and faces. Today was also a chance to celebrate for Lake Macquarie's Citizen of the Year, Sailability President Bert Ray.
Very happy. I got the surprise of my life when I received the award. I didn't expect it.
The organisation, which teaches disabled people the art of sailing, also took out the Lake Macquarie Community Group of the Year. Australia Day, an opportunity for them to relax and enjoy the recognition they deserve.
It's been 18 months since Van New International proposed turning Newcastle's historic post office into an upper-class lounge bar and restaurant. Disputes between the company and Newcastle City Council over noise control and operating hours have seen the $1.8 million project shelved until now. Yesterday, the Lands and Environment Court overturned Council's midnight curfew on the proposed development, meaning the project will now go ahead. The Mayor says Council won't appeal the court's decision.
On Australia Day, in a real Aussie fashion, accept the umpire's decision.
Once open, the establishment will be allowed to operate until 5 a.m. on weekends.
I think the operators of the new premises need to understand that they've got a responsibility as corporate citizens, and the residents need to understand that there's been a process that's gone through the courts and a decision has been reached in that manner.
Van New International spokesperson Dean Moore today said the company was excited by the court's decision, and while management plans will be in place to control antisocial behaviour, people laughing and having a good time in the street is part and parcel of living in the city. The bar is expected to open early next year. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Boasting an international field on this day, one flag flies a little higher and brighter than most. Described as Australia's next big thing of golf, Matthew Giles was one of those to make the most of calm morning conditions, with the World Junior Champion moving 2 strokes in the right direction. After winning pre-qualifying on Monday, Andrew McCormack was still only a blip on the radar. But come day 2 of the Lake Macquarie International, and the Charlestown teenager was in everyone's sights after his opening round 6 under 66.
It's a bit daunting, but yeah, just as I said, I'm unknown, so there's not much pressure on me.
His playing partner Luke Henwood added some all the same on the very first hole. Starting his day 2 shots behind the lead, the Moore Park Club member followed up his approach to 1 with a pinpoint putt to move to 5 under. That's where Belmont's own Rudy Bezuidenhout began his day after revelling in his return home.
I'm always nervous playing this tournament, so I'm nervous going out today, but at the same time, you know, it's good.
He held firm with an even par round, while McCormack only gave up 1 stroke in tough afternoon conditions to remain well in the hunt. Light winds didn't do the fleet any favours for this morning's ocean race from Swansea to Newcastle Harbour. In fact, some were still coming in as the quicker craft lay in waiting to do it all again. Ivan McFadden skippered Funnelweb got the nod for line honours in the opening race ahead of Lake Macquarie's Frantic. However, some didn't even complete it due to the benign offshore conditions. If that was calm, the start to the afternoon race was anything but. Crews jostled for positions before the starter got them away as it grew harder to believe one of the trophies up for grabs was the Friendship Cup. While it was individual honours the crews were chasing, the inter-club battle between Lake Macquarie and the Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club makes an interesting highlight. With a race remaining, those honours are still up for grabs. In scorching conditions, the water was teasing competitors at the State Beach Volleyball round at Nobby's Beach. After winning their semi-final 21-18, Glenn Rigby and Jurgen Rovik were downed in the AA men's final by local pairing of Paul Mounter and Grant Wheeler by 4. In an all-Sydney women's final, the pairing of Sabine Link and Ines Glass proved too good. They combined to beat Cristiana D'Agosto and Miranda Cosson in their one-set final 21-15.
Entertaining the huge Australia Day crowd at Lake Macquarie last night was thirsty work for country music artist Becky Cole. While some joined in the chorus, others pulled out their best dance moves. While the free concert was a major draw card for revellers, others headed to the carnival for a dizzying whir of a time at either a hectic pace or a tamer speed. But it was the fireworks which lit up the night sky at 9 o'clock which stole the show, all eyes turning to see the bright celebration at the end of a day on which we all remember just what it means to be Australian. The fireworks display given a true Aussie-style stamp of approval. Christy Carter, NBN News.
The morning after the night before, but Nicky Carl wants it to be Friday night in a hurry.
We'll take plenty of confidence out of that second half. I thought we did excellent. I thought we were unlucky not to get that second goal.
That individual brilliance from Milton Rodriguez ensured the tie remained very much alive. But for the players, it also proved a point they've believed all along. They don't wilt under pressure.
2-0 down, lots of teams would have packed it in and said, we're done for the 2 games. We've come back, we scored the goal, should have scored another one.
It also points to a reshuffle to the starting side.
Yeah, Milton did extremely well. There's obviously a possibility there. Possibilities with on the defence side of things as well.
Sydney knows a draw is good enough for them to advance, but point scoring off the pitch is sure to continue all the way to Friday's rematch.
We've had it over them all year, and I don't think it's going to be any different up there in Newcastle.
I can't wait. As I said, I'd love to knock out Sydney.
I can assure you that there'll be nothing left in the tank come final whistle.
All things point to a classic confrontation.
Since Operation Safe Arrival began on Thursday night, police say Hunter motorists have generally behaved themselves. However, there have been a few notable exceptions. Officers stopped a male driver doing 178 kilometres in a 110 kilometre zone on the F3 at Minmai, a male provisional driver for 141 kilometres in a 100 kilometre zone, a disqualified driver doing 122 kilometres in an 80 kilometre zone on Industrial Drive Mayfield, an unlicensed driver speeding at Raymond Terrace, and a second provisional driver with a blood alcohol reading of 0.165.
It's obviously very disappointing that these things keep occurring, particularly given the high speeds and the high drink driving readings.
And the imminent conclusion to the summer holiday period has resulted in plenty of traffic on the region's roads today. With traffic delays expected to continue on main roads tonight as holidaymakers head home, police are asking motorists to be patient and drive to the conditions. Double demerit points end at midnight. He might not be the man who sued God, but he is the man who today challenged and good-naturedly threatened to sack the weather god. Farmer and bush poet Bob Skelton issued a stern demand to Huey to send it down or face dire consequences.
If it doesn't rain within 30 days, we're going to take action to have old Huey, Jupiter Peluvus, removed from his position. Well, we're going to put pressure to bear on the other gods up there.
He's already got a petition going to make sure that happens. The demands for rain began with a poem, followed by a group chant, all capped off, of course, with a rain dance.
Belmont Golf Course was like another place for the final round after yesterday's terrible conditions, and no one was complaining today.
That was brutal. You hit a shot just slightly wrong and you just got punished really, really badly.
At 3 under, Pike was one of 5 to start the day, a stroke off the lead.
I can't get a good start at the moment, so if I can get away to a good start, I think I'll just finish it off as like I have been, and I think I'll do well.
Proving it's easier said than done, he bogeyed the first hole. Overnight leader Blake McGrory followed suit, but got his game going at 4, with this chip doing everything but drop in for eagle. After a birdie start, Justin Roach was holding firm, while Pike got firing at the 4th. A booming drive was followed with a smashing approach on the long par 5, which set him up for an eagle chance. The putt oh so close, but birdie meant he was at least moving the right way. It was the more mature man of the field, Lester Peterson, who made a charge at the turn with 3 birdies and 4 holes to push the 1995 winner 2 shots clear. But it didn't last. The real drama came over the closing holes, Pike sinking a monster putt on 17 to draw him within reach. But he couldn't catch Justin Roach or McGrory, who finished at 6 under, and they headed out for 3 extra holes. And it's the latter who'll be taking the title back with him to Surfers Paradise tomorrow.
However, last night in Tamworth, he made Australian country music history, winning 4 golden guitars to now become the second most successful artist at the annual awards, behind the late Slim Dusty. Central Coast-based Becky Cole answered criticism of her support for Australian troops currently serving overseas with an emphatic 3-guitar haul for Poster Girl. And Grafton's McClymont sisters collected a double for New Talent and the Group Award.